Hi, Jodi Hardesty with Empowered Heart Connections. I'm going to be talking about today how to spot manipulators on the first date. And there are often some subtle signs that you can watch out for. So we're going to go through those today and talk about some glimpses into the future about what it may look like if you continue to date this person. So the first thing to notice is often their overly intense charm and desire for immediate intimacy. And that could be emotional or physical intimacy. So this can look like excessive compliments, premature soulmate language, like we're meant to be together. I've never felt this way about anyone before. All those really lovely things to hear, but that should feel a little uncomfortable on the first date. And why it matters is because this is a tactic that's used by manipulators to kind of soften your boundaries. You probably heard the term love bombing. This is often used for this. But they're trying to hook you in emotionally to keep your attention and create that emotional dependency that kind of feels like I have to get that affirmation from them. I have to feel like they're loving and acknowledging me. And it can be a little bit addictive to have that kind of quality of a person just love bombing you and giving you all these compliments. So it can be a little alluring at first, but it should also be a concern, right? If they're doing it immediately, remember they don't know you and they've just met you. And so if they're feeling that strongly, it should be a sign that there's something off with them. There's something that may be motivating this kind of language or love bombing more than just your undoubtable charm, right? A future glimpse for what this may look like is once you're emotionally invested into the relationship, it may shift into more critical conversations, withdrawal, and control. So it kind of does this bait and switch kind of mentality that keeps you on the hook and keeps you feeling off kilter. So these kind of destabilizing interactions can create a sense of feeling insecure or doubting yourself. Right? This is where it kind of falls into making you feel a little bit crazy. Like, oh, okay, they said I'm wonderful, but now they're criticizing me. I don't understand, what changed. So keep in mind that those things can happen. Usually those things happen after a little bit longer. They wait until you're really emotionally invested before those true colors start coming out. So be prepared for those. And sometimes you can see in the very beginning, there's subtle things, like again, like the way they treat the servers or the way that they are maybe subtly saying something or sarcastically saying something. We'll talk about some of those clues as well. Boundary testing as flirting. So this is one way they can kind of give you clues that they're not really being as nice as they seem to be. This can be like joking about your boundaries, like, oh, come on, don't be so serious, right? When they're trying to touch you or hug you and you're not ready for that. Physical touch without clear consent or pushing you to open up about deep topics before you're really ready to go there or be vulnerable with them. And if you're feeling reluctant, that's a good clue that there's a reason you're feeling reluctant. So remember to trust your gut in those moments. Why this matters is because they're collecting data on how far they can push you, how far they can easily go to where you'll override your own discomfort in order to accommodate them and their needs. And many of us are taught this in our world, like we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, we don't want to be insulting or critical, so we kind of go along with things, especially if we're being manipulated or pushed. So make sure you're recognizing, hey, when am I compensating my own boundaries in order to accommodate someone else's emotional needs, and is that really beneficial for anyone? A future glimpse in this situation is if they ignore no now, imagine what it'll look like later when they feel more comfortable with you and you have really become more dependent on them and their value and their opinions. They'll really ignore those bigger boundaries later on down the line. So keep this in mind if they are already subtly kind of pushing you in ways that just feel a little pushy and uncomfortable maybe initially, but again, will typically expand and get much worse. So some subtle power plays is another way that they can give you some clues that they're manipulating you. This looks like controlling small aspects of the date. So what you order, where you sit, and steering the conversation maybe towards themselves or interrupting when you speak. Like enough about you, it's all back to me, and it's the me show. And why this matters again is because manipulators crave dominance. And subtle control is often their way of kind of creating that dynamic. That's their opening move. And a future glimpse of this is power plays and how they may escalate into emotional gaslighting, possessiveness, or financial control, right? So, oh, if you do that, that I'll feel really bad about that if you do that, or that'll hurt my feelings if you don't do this, right? So those manipulation tactics become much more pervasive as the dating goes along, and often it becomes pervasive at the point where it's too late for you to kind of backpedal, is that we are so far in and so destabilized at that point, it's really difficult to see it clearly once it's gone on for a while. Another clue is inconsistent storytelling or vague details. So what this looks like is changing details about their past, vague career stories or unclear relationship histories, or just stories that really don't kind of add up. They don't make sense. Maybe they're missing like some significant details, or they have details that seem a little far-fetched. And this matters because manipulators often curate their persona to match what they think you want. And inconsistencies reveal that there's something else behind that mask. So be aware of those inconsistencies. Don't write those off. Many of us, again, like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But if you're seeing a lot of consistencies, particularly early on, then that's a pretty good indicator that your future is going to look like a lot of inconsistencies. Lies and secrecy may become more entrenched. You'll constantly doubt yourself and be questioning yourself, which is exactly, again, how they keep you destabilized, keep you off kilter, and they maintain control. So again, keep in mind those consistencies. If it's feeling off, it probably is. Trust your gut. Another tool they use is shifting responsibility. What this looks like is every ex was crazy. Always they were misunderstood, or they blame bad behavior on others. I just get so frustrated when people don't get me, right? Which can sound like legitimate, but it's usually they don't get you because you're being hypercritical, or you're wanting control, or you're wanting to focus completely on you. So keep in mind what that means to them, and ask more questions. What does that mean whenever people don't get you? What does that look like? Be curious. And if most of us describe our exes in ways that are not very flattering, right? We want to justify the reasons why we broke up with them. But it may be an interesting question to ask them. What do you feel like you did to contribute to dysfunction in relationships in the past, and what have you learned from that? And that'll be an interesting response from somebody who's trying to manipulate you. A future glimpse of this shifting responsibility is they won't take accountability in your relationship either. So if they have no accountability in the past relationships, it's really unlikely they learned anything about that and are able to take accountability now. And it will likely blame you for their poor behavior. So if you don't behave properly, then that justifies their inappropriate behavior, right? Nobody wants that. Some subtle backhanded compliments or nagging. And what this looks like is you're actually pretty smart for someone who doesn't seem super career focused. Now that's a fun one, isn't it? Or I don't usually date people your type, but there's something about you, right? If there's a little bit of a message there saying that you're not really quite enough, but here's your compliment that sort of makes you feel confused and complimented and sort of insulted all at the same time. And this matters because this is used intentionally to lower your self-esteem. So you'll seek their validation, right? All you're wanting is to get their approval. And again, this usually happens more slowly and insidiously over time. So it's not like, the first time you hear it, you maybe brush it off and it doesn't really impact you. But over time, these little digs can really work on your self-esteem and make it difficult for you to trust your own judgment and feel competent or like you are enough. So recognizing these signs in the first few dates can really give you a leg up in knowing to run away. A future glimpse at these backhanded compliments and how it can affect your future is they can evolve into flat-out verbal abuse, passive aggression, or chronic self-doubt in relationships. So if these are subtle backhanded compliments that are a little, off-putting at first, it can evolve into just flat-out critical, like, you really are not as good as my ex-girlfriend, or whatever those negative comments are that are blatantly critical and abusive. So again, trust yourself. If it feels uncomfortable, if it's a backhanded compliment and it's paired with all of these other things, it's a pretty good clue you may want to run away. Another really good clue is that you're with a manipulator is that they have a hyper attunement to your insecurities. So they zero in on your fears, your past heartbreaks, or your self-esteem issues and show intense interest in them. And this might sound like they're caring and compassionate and trying to understand and get you, but what it usually is doing, especially if they've had these other kind of indicators that are showing they're manipulative, is that they're using your vulnerabilities to control or hurt you. I actually had someone tell me one time that they discussed with their ex, who was a narcissistic person, who told her that he did observe the behaviors that she had with her own family members and how that triggered her, and he did replicate them on purpose to make sure that he could have control over her. So lovely of him to share this with her after they broke up, because it's a good insight into what a manipulator's mindset is doing. But this is true, and it's really confusing for those of us who don't think this way, because we wouldn't be deliberately trying to tune into someone's insecurities to make them feel crappy about themselves, but these manipulators do. So keep in mind that not everybody behaves like you or thinks like you do. And if they are, again, overly interested in these first dates and not really sharing about themselves and have these other red flags, do watch out for that. Because in your future, it may look like using your insecurities as a weapon during conflicts in particular, especially when you try to set boundaries or say no to them. If you know what they say, that if it's too good to be true, it probably is. This is a good clue in these first few dates. If they just seem like they agree with everything that you say, they seem perfect, or they mirror your opinions without much individuality, this is a good clue that they are trying to show you somebody that they think you want to see. So this mirroring is a manipulative tactic to gain trust and access to you. So remember, if somebody's completely agreeing with everything you say without any really validity or weight behind it, it may be them just mirroring you and trying to get that, again, that closeness that they haven't really earned yet, and it can be really misleading. A future glimpse is once you feel secure in the relationship, the mirroring stops and their real or often toxic self emerges, which then all of a sudden is opposed to everything you say or do, is not liking everything you say or do, and is controlling everything you say or do. So this may appear desirable at first, but again, you want somebody who is able to say, oh, even if they say, hey, I agree with that, but here's my perspective is a little bit different, right? You really want somebody to be able to say, I have different opinions than you. Again, you don't want it completely opposite, but you want to be able to have a genuine conversation with somebody and really get to know what their real perspective is and their real personality is. And this takes time. So again, if you're getting a lot of these clues on the first date, it's a really good clue to rule them out. Don't waste your time trying to find out whether are they a manipulator or not. If they've got a lot of these clues, it's a really good sign that they are a manipulator, and it's time to move along. So again, just some general negative behaviors to watch for: avoiding responsibility or shifting blame, interrupting or talking over you, dismissing your feelings as too sensitive. Love that one. If you're too sensitive, that means you feel stuff, and that's a good thing. So don't let anybody make that bad. Making everything about them, lack of curiosity about your life, your values, or your boundaries, right? So there's two extremes there. They can be overly interested in your past pain issues, but also just completely not interested, which I find is often the case with these characters. And focusing on sex or physical validation only. So recognizing these behaviors, again, can be a really good clue that it's time to move along. Again, don't need to waste your time with these people. There's plenty of people out there who will be a genuinely authentic and loving person and have the same type of caring and love that you do. Thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe and share this if you found this helpful. And thank you for watching.